Hello, welcome back to the Rams Right podcast with me, your host Simon. So a lot to touch on today then. Last three games been quite busy indeed. Red cards, a couple of them. We look forward to West Brom. Playoffs, are they still a possibility after following our 1-1 draw with Forest at the weekend? With me to digest all this is King of the Turtleneck. It's Ryan Conway from The Athletic. Ryan, how are you, my friend?
Oh, mate, it gassed me up so much. I'm doing all right. Although I'm not in a turtleneck, and I've been given grief all day for this, as well as Liam Rosenior earlier on. His press conference. I'm in my Arsenal shirt. That
is appalling. Did you rock up for the press conference in an Arsenal shirt, mate?
Yeah, so we're doing them over Zoom, and it was only when we were all already on camera and waiting for Liam. I was like, "Oh, sugar! I'm in my Arsenal shirt." This is better though than when I did a Cocu presser in my Real Madrid shirt.
So you can't do that. I'm surprised he allowed you in.
He asked where my coat was. So we're slowly improving. It's good to be back, man. It's real good to be back. I had fun last time.
A lot of people messaged me and said, "Are you going to get Ryan back on the show?" So obviously we spoke and we said, "Yeah, we'll do it again." So I'm happy you're here, mate. I'm happy you're here. So obviously for my regular listeners, the last game I covered was Millwall. Obviously Louis Sibley hat-trick and a 3-2 victory. I've been busy moving house, so that's why I've not done any. But since then, we've had a 2-1 victory against Reading and a 1-0 victory against Preston North End. So Ryan, I mean, in those couple of games following Millwall, obviously we're in a bit of a run now. What would you say? Lawrence has scored, Rooney scored, and then obviously Rooney scored again against Preston. We then moved on to Nottingham Forest, thinking we're in good run of form here. You know, when we saw the Forest game, you know, obviously 1-1. When you compare the performances, I guess, from the Reading game and the Preston game, I mean, I thought particularly against Reading, we were very good in the first half. Preston, I felt we dominated the game. Probably, you know, we never looked in any real danger. Come Saturday, come the weekend against Forest, and we just didn't sort of hit the ground running like we have been recently, have we? What do you think?
I think the problem that not a lot of Derby fans will want to hear or admit is also Forest are a very good team. And this is what you get when you play good teams. You know, good teams are organised, know what they're doing, play good on the counter-attack, play good pack, defend well, and that's what Forest do because they're a good team. You know, they are also in the playoff hunt at, fifth? They're not there by fluke. They're a very well-drilled outfit. Now, that will hurt Derby fans, but also, you know, this is the real acid test for Derby. This week, Forest, West Brom, Brentford, these are the real acid tests. Now, I've been impressed with how they've won ugly recently. They've shown real character more than anything. That, you know, we were starting to see the sparkling football that was on display again in the Millwall game once they went 1-0 down and found their rhythm a little bit, and we saw it in patches against Reading and Preston North End. But what we've seldom seen is the ability to really, really dig in. And I'm talking, you know, last 15 minutes and Cocu's bringing Curtis Davies on and you're thinking, wow, he is just shutting up shop. And let's be fair, this is a tactical adaptation that I've not seen before from Philip, where he's looked at the final 15 and just thought, nah, forget it. We'll take 1-0. Let's shut this down immediately. Because earlier on, you know, it was a bit gung-ho. It was a bit, you know, let's try and get 3 and 4 and 5. And, you know, that didn't work. I mean, you look at the Barnsley game away, where they conceded basically the last kick of the game, and they didn't really have a tactical plan to shut Barnsley down. And so, yeah, they've won ugly, and that's a characteristic that they're going to need going into this.
It's almost like a plan B. You know, we've been screaming out managers having plan A's, plan B's. I think Steve McLaren was one of them that we always sort of criticised because he didn't have a plan B. I mean, from what I'm seeing from Cocu, he's rigid with his formations. He's tried a couple of different ones out during the season that I don't think he's, you know, felt, we're going to get the benefit out of this. But he's now sort of, like you say, he's adapting. He's going, 10, 15 minutes. We're a bit under the cosh. Let's bring on another defender. And I think, Curtis Davies is, you know, he's quite happy to come on and just defend, isn't he, really?
Yeah, I mean, if that's, of course, Curtis is the ultimate pro and will always say that he wants to start more games, that he wants to start in as many games as possible. But being the ultimate pro, I think he also accepts that the team comes first, the squad comes first. And if his job is to come in for the last 15 minutes plus injury time, so last 20 minutes, and just shut the operation down, I think it's something he'll do with great professionalism, even if it's not, his ideal playing scenario. So yeah, I think it's I think it's a good bit of management. As you said, like Koku's oscillated between a few formations, but I think we forget that he actually started the season playing the 4-2-3-1. He adapted, I think, out of not quite knowing his best squad. And I think there was a moment where he was maybe unsure if the 4-2-3-1 was best for the personnel he had.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, we saw him try a 4-3-3, which again, just slight variation. We saw him try a flat 4-5-1, 5-3-2, or 3-5-2, however you want to call it, and a diamond.
Yeah.
None of them really worked, if we're honest. They won at Middlesbrough with a diamond, but that was a bad Middlesbrough team. Or at Pride Park, not at Middlesbrough, excuse me. They won at Pride Park against Middlesbrough with a diamond, but it was a bad Middlesbrough team. They then played it against Forest, and I watched that November game back, and they were poor with it. They were really poor with that diamond.
Yeah, they had a couple of moments perhaps with that diamond, but to be honest, that game was it was a poor game for me, to be honest. I think maybe the first half, we may have edged it out, but I think Forest really had the better of the second half, and then one mistake was all it took, really. But looking back at sort of like Reading and Preston, I've noticed that Mr. Wayne Rooney is on the score sheet now. For me, since we've come back from the pandemic, from the break from the coronavirus, and football's back. For me, he's not sort of been the player he was beforehand. If you get me, I think obviously that is his age. He needs games, obviously. He's not, I don't think, especially against Forest, his balls weren't the best, his passing range that we've seen. But he's chipping in a goal still. Is that 6 now? Is he got, is it 6?
Yeah,
6 now for the season?
5 in the league, and he got 1 in the FA Cup against
Northampton, the penalty, weren't it? Yeah, so he might be a bit of I won't say passenger, but not quite there on the pitch, but he's still chipping in with the goals. And what I think he's doing is he's basically giving the reins to someone like Max Bird to say, go and show everyone what you can do.
I think the problem is, and I agree, and I said this on my Derby Digest after the Forest game, is actually, if we're all brutally honest, Rooney's been poor. And I get that we judge him by different standards, but he set those standards because of how good he is and because what we saw from him before lockdown was very good at Derby. Against Millwall, he got his pocket picked twice by my count. One of those almost landed Derby in incredibly hot water, and I think it might have been Craig Forsyth or Matt Clark. Does really well defensively to just stand up the Millwall player, but he gets his pocket picked. Against Forest, he was awful. He was poor. He gets in one quality ball which leads to the equaliser. But let's not forget he had a free kick in the first half on the other side. Yeah. Where he sends it way too deep.
Proper bad free kick from his standard.
Yeah, his mid-range passing was well off. You have to give credit to Yuri Ribeiro, who had those diagonals to Bogle scouted all game long. But also they were made easy for him to snuff out because they were dropping 3 or 4 yards short anyway. His range just wasn't there. And I always go back to what Sir Alex Ferguson said in his autobiography, where he said, Wayne is not a naturally fit player. He takes 4 games to get up to speed. Now, they've been off for 3 months. Yeah. That's longer than most off seasons at all. So, yeah, but when you are as good as he is, you're going to chip in with a free kick goal here and an assist there and all that stuff. But in terms of his general play, I think he's been poor. But also, now he's got those games back under his belt and he's finding a little bit of a groove. And West Brom next, nice open team in midfield. Yes. I think he might start to find a little bit of rhythm again.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, though, I think it may benefit us because we saw when he first came in that they, midfielders, the defences, they targeted Wayne Rooney. They didn't let him have any space. But what that led was then Max Bird then having, a lot of space to work with, and we saw how well, what he can do. Now teams are going for Max Bird, which then leaves Rooney free. we've also got Louis Sibley coming now, who teams now saw his performance against Millwall and have gone, right, this guy needs crowding out, he needs defending, and we cannot let him get through. We cannot let him have time on the ball. So what we're now seeing is we've got a lot of danger men, and now we can surely look at going, right, well, that's fine now. We can use this to our advantage.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Reading keyed on that very quickly with Louis Sibley, where there was just like, yeah, we're not going to let that guy beat us, and they essentially bracketed him with two players. He didn't. It's always hard to evaluate a player after they've scored a hat trick, especially one so young and early in their career, because you think, well, unless he then goes out and does it again or scores 4, then any performance is going to be a step back. But that doesn't mean it's a bad performance. He did have a quiet game against Reading, objectively, even without taking into account what he did before. Because Reading defended him so well. It wasn't anything that he did or didn't do. Reading just sort of doubled him up. But he still went away with an assist.
Yes.
So it shows that he, even when he's not getting on the ball a lot, and against Forest, same thing, he didn't get on the ball a lot early on. But then when he did, he's a spark plug. He just goes, he moves. And that, it shows, I think, really good maturity from a young player, because sometimes they get frustrated, go hunting for the ball, commit petulant fouls, but also great concentration to know when you've got the ball to still switch on and know what you're doing and where you're going with it. And so, yeah, I think he's been okay since the hat trick. I think he's getting a lot more respect from defenders now, which is to be expected. But he's still playing very, very well and justifiably in the 11. Yeah.
So just before then, we really divulge into the Forest game. A couple of fans have tweeted me their thoughts on it. So first one was from Lucy Hackett on Facebook. She says, "Hi Simon, hi Brian. Hope you're well. In the Eastman's derby, we were very poor and shocking. We showed no pace and didn't look like we wanted to win it. We showed no quality either. In the second half, we were still moving slowly, but managed to pick up a tiny bit. Hamer should have definitely done better on the goal by Lolly. We managed to get a goal out of nowhere, but I'll take it any day. Shame about Waggy as well, getting sent off now, missing for 3 games, but overall, a point is a point on to West Brom." And there was one more on that as well. A couple more. Roy Gibson on Facebook says, "Forest defence, wall and counter-attack plan worked better than our tactics on Saturday. With our unfortunate player incidents and tough running, I think the playoffs and Premiership dream will prove to be a bridge too far. But what is your opinion?" We'll come on to that. And all good wishes for Andre towards a complete and speedy recovery. And last one is Mark Andrew Coote on Facebook. He says, "Was surprised we got the equaliser, was going to plan for Forest. Let us have the ball, closed all the gaps and hit us on the break. We look worse than we were because of these tactics. It's not a coincidence that Forest win a lot by 1 goal. Makes Rowett's style look almost watchable. We missed what Andre gave us since the restart." So a few comments there. Let's get into Forest, because I think that may be it felt like one of our worst performances. And as you brought up earlier in the show, were we that poor or were Forest that good? Because we know how Nottingham Forest set up. We know they look to pack men behind the ball, hit you on the counter-attack. And essentially, that is what they did. But for me, that first, well, especially up until the Forest Joe Lolly goal, it felt like Derby thought, let's play them at their own game. Let's sit back, let them come on to us and counter-attack. Am I right there, or would you say we just got it? For me, in that first 25 minutes or so, I think Cocker got it tactically wrong.
Yeah, I actually think I wouldn't say he was out coached. I think Lamucci, maybe a touch out coach, because I think Lamucci identified a weakness in the system, and as I said on the digest, every single system has a weakness, and the problem that I had with, and to pick up on what the first person commented, was this idea that Derby didn't want it. To me, is a myth. Yeah. Because actually, and I went and watched the game back, when you look at it, they're standing still because there are no gaps. There's no gaps for anyone to run in, because Forest have a flat bank of 4. Ben Watson just in front of them, and then another flat bank of 4. They had this 4-1-4-1, and usually they don't play like that. They normally go with a 4-3-3, or they match a 4-2-3-1. And this time they just went, nope, 2 banks of 4, we're not moving, and you're going to try and play through us. And when you're presented with that, and Liam Rossini touched on it, Forest tactically adapted to what Derby have to do. And if you have never seen it on tape before, then you're kind of going to be like, not quite sure what we're doing now, lads. And that's where all the static came from. And when they did create pockets of space, they were, I think, lulled for so long that they just didn't react quick enough. Jason Knight had a couple where he had acres of space and he just didn't move into them quick enough. And there was one instance where he had just loads of room, but he's just stuck out on the left and Rooney has to pass it another way. And he points to Jason and then points to the space where he wants him to be. And there was a lot of that. Yeah. Derby had to work so hard to create space. And then when they did, the players didn't move quick enough into them because they were not in rhythm. Now, that is a credit to Lamucci. And again, it's a credit to this Forest team being very, very good at what they do. They were excellent on the counter-attack. They were absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
They've been like that all season, though, haven't they?
Yeah, and as I outlined in my piece on The Athletic, for tactical reasons, Derby never got to grips with their wide men at all. The first goal, honestly, Forest have got 4 points from Derby, and a lot of, you could argue that all 4 of those points Derby have just said, there you go, have them, because obviously we discussed the first in November where it's a Bogle mistake. It actually comes from good Forest pressing, but the Bogle pass is wild. The Forest one, Jason Knight has taken Matt Cash on the overlap, and Craig Forsyth just doesn't react quickly enough to get to Lolly, and then Max Bird stands off him, and you just can't allow him that kind of space.
There was I saw quite a bit of blame thrown at Forsyth there. There was also a lot of blame, obviously, Lucy just pointed that out as well, that was Hamer at fault for that goal? Would you say he was at fault? Looking it back now, obviously I'm not a professional keeper. I played and my keepers coached me, when I was younger. And we always got told to, you've got to stay on your toes. But essentially, you've got to make sure you're in the right position. For me, Hamer was too far to his left-hand side when Lolly picked that ball up. Now, we know, Hamer being a professional, he should know that Lolly will look to take a shot because he's got that ability about him to take a shot from distance. Now, when I first saw it, like, it took a deflection. Looking back at the replay, it didn't. And for me, Hamer possibly could have done better. I think he was a little bit flat-footed.
I think what he actually does is he starts going to the other direction, just a fraction, and I'm talking fraction, but that makes a massive difference because it actually evades his fingertips by a fraction. So if he just doesn't feint that way once, he might be able to tip that. I've watched it a few times, and I'm not sure how critical I want to be of Hamer. I think yes, he could do better, but let's not get it twisted here. The Max Bird and Craig Forsyth have got to do better defensively. It's fine blaming Hamer. He was part of it. Can he do better? Yeah, he can. Am I going to absolutely slaughter him for him? Not really. I don't think it's as bad as the mistake he made against Reading.
Yes, I think.
But Bird and Forsyth have got to close that down better. They just have to. Yeah,
and I think that obviously that mistake against Reading, I think obviously if you're not seeing the goal, he was a corner. Was it corner? It was a cross, weren't it? And
and he
bit of a out. Wisdom ducked in front of him, and he just it was an easy ball to catch, and he just punched it straight to Reading player's head, and So I think now he's.
I kind of admired the accuracy to be able to.
It was
poke it right on his edge. The player didn't even have to move. He just saw it and went bang and nodded it straight back in. I kind of had a chuckle. It was like I kind of admire that.
I think we're seeing, Roos has been totally dropped, and rightly so for his. It wasn't obviously a lot of people say it's the Fulham performance alone, but it wasn't. He was having a few. I wouldn't say nightmares, but he was. Should have been doing better. And obviously, Hamer came in and he did look a bit more secure between the sticks. But I think he's now at that point where he's making too many errors. And for an experienced professional like him, and I'm sure he'll be punishing himself for it. He'll be looking and going, I should be doing this there, I should be doing that there. But
I mean, he's making the kind of errors that got Keller Roos dropped.
Exactly.
Now, if that's the case,
do you bring Roos back in? He's our keeper.
Roos is the only one that is under contract through next season for Derby. Now, if that is the case, and I think it's an area that they will go and try and strengthen, be it on loan or using free transfers. I don't think they're in a position to spend any money, if I'm honest.
No.
So yeah, but Roos is the only one that's going to be there through next season. Now, if worse comes to worse and you don't get a goalkeeper in and you have to roll with Roos, then you might as well throw him in, because Hamer is now starting to make the kinds of mistakes that cost Roos that number one jersey. I mean, after a spell on the bench, bring Roos back in, and you don't know, maybe things will be different. Maybe an atmosphere behind closed doors helps him.
Takes the pressure off, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I defended Hamer, and I always said that he was a slight upgrade, but at championship level, slight gains do count.
Yeah.
Now, he was only a slight upgrade because he just didn't make the mistakes. Well, now he's making them. So you have to weigh up. Well, this guy's only here until the end of the year, whereas this guy we've got under contract. We might as well roll with him. If it was me, I mean, I definitely don't envy the decision that Koku's got to make there, because I think, you know, that
it's almost like tossing a coin, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Neither
inspire much confidence at the moment.
So Joe Hart, then, he seems to be the name on everyone's lips. But would you, if you're in Derby's position, would you look at taking a chance? I personally, you know, I think, you know, like, it might. There was either me or Ollie from Derby County Blog that started this rumor about 18 months ago, with tweets on social media, Instagram, etc., things like that. That, you know, could be for Joe Hart, and I was all up for it. But you know, if I'm looking at it with my head, I'm thinking he's going to be on far too much money to come to Derby.
Yeah, he's going to be on a lot of money. But also, I think it is a reasonable question to ask why clubs, everywhere he goes. I mean, at Burnley, he couldn't get in the team.
Yeah.
Torino, the Torino president, said that he thought he would be better than what he is. I mean, that's pretty upsetting.
It's harsh, isn't it?
Yeah, he said he didn't expect him to make the amount of errors that he had done. And I think at Torino, he was actually the goalkeeper responsible for the most errors leading to goals.
Yeah.
It's a fair question to ask why this keeps happening on a consistent basis. And look, this isn't a 1 or 2 year blip. I mean, David De Gea now at a top level. You know, we're now starting to ask very real questions of his form. If it is form, or if this is now the keeper he is. I think that's a very fair question to ask of Joe Hart. Now, I get that he's a great name. He's a former England international, played at Man City, X, Y, and Z. That was then. What have you done right now? That is the goalkeeper you're getting. That is, and this is why I don't agree that he would be a sensible long-term solution, because you have ambition to get into the Premier League. Well, he's proven that he right now is not a very good Premier League goalkeeper, and he is at an age where you're not going to get resale value on him.
No,
and he's probably going to start sliding that way. To me, if you said you can have Joe Hart for one year and it's just a free hit and you pay him nothing, and whatever happens, you go, yeah, great, awesome, take him all day long. But to me, it just doesn't seem like a smart building block move, and I'm just one of those people that thinks his powers are diminished now.
Yeah.
If he turns up and proves me wrong, and you know, sees all the tweets that I've said about him and hears this and calls me an X, Y, and Z, great. I'll take that all day if he's keeping, you know,
sliding into your DMs, mate. That's what he'll be doing.
If he's keeping 20 clean sheets in the league, I'll take it all day. But I mean, if he turns up and he makes similar mistakes to Keller Roos, then there's going to be some real iffy faces going around there.
Just quickly on these mistakes, they all seem to be the sort of, you know, the same, you know, type of mistakes. We saw it with Scott Carson last season. We've seen it with Roos this season. We've seen it with Hamer. Coming for the ball, you know, crosses, basic sort of goalkeeping coaching that you need. You know, do we think about questioning Shay Given, and is he sort of bringing something to the table, or is it just?
I'm not sure. I honestly think Derby have just not been great at identifying goalkeeping talent. When I did the piece on Keller Roos and I spoke to some of his old coaches and old teammates, that was an issue with Keller all the way back when. So that's not a coaching issue. That at some point, that's a Keller issue.
Yeah.
Hamer was the same at Huddersfield. You know, so again, at some point, it's not a coaching issue, it's a player issue. And sometimes those habits, you know, are just something that a player will have and will always have. So yeah, I mean, is it fair to question Given? I honestly haven't spent enough time around Shay Given and his coaching methods to be like it's all his fault.
Yeah.
And I don't think that would be fair for me to critique his work without seeing his work.
Yeah, but but the thing is, you bring up a great point, because there has been talk across social media about, is it Given? You know, me included. I've said it, but what you've brought up there, you've said, well, you've spoke to coaches and former players of Calarus. He's never been one to come and claim crosses, come and particularly command his area very well. And you've just said the same about Hamer as well. So clearly, then it's probably not a coaching issue with Shay Given. It is obviously like you first pointed out. Perhaps it's a Derby County trait of not sort of bringing the right keeper in. I mean, if it was up to you, is there anybody that you'd sort of look at going, yeah, he might do a job? Or goalkeeper's a hard position to sort of pick into.
Yeah, they're so difficult, and the problem is in this system, it's not just a goalkeeper. You're basically looking at someone like Edison. Obviously, if they could get Edison, that would be great.
Happy day.
You're looking at someone like Edison who essentially acts as the first defender, as a sweeper. They are so difficult to find. And you're looking at one on a free transfer. I think Declan Rudd at Preston is out of contract at the end of this year. He's young enough as a goalkeeper. He's young enough.
Yeah.
And he's going to be free. Do you bring him in and let him compete? I mean, Preston had an okay defensive record, particularly through the first half of the season, I believe. Why not? In terms of on loan keepers, looking at someone like Martinez at Arsenal, who is at the minute their second choice, but Bird Leno, depending on his fitness, would he drop down to the Championship? I wouldn't mind to see it. There's a young lad at Manchester United whose name escapes me.
That's a great shout, Martinez is. That is a top shout.
I wouldn't mind it at all. Now, that would be a bit of a stretch because, again, he's at Arsenal, a top club. Yeah. But if it's a case of, I know at the minute Arsenal have got a young lad. He's in my notepad somewhere. I'll have to find it for you after. But Arsenal have got a young lad that they're very high on at the moment, which would mean if Martinez is a make weight, would he mind dropping down a division? I'm not so sure. I said Michel Vorm in a piece about free transfers. Now, that was me trying to think less about how I think football works and me trying to think about how football actually works.
I disagree with you on that one about Vorm as well.
And I didn't agree with myself 100%, but it was like, look, that Koku knows him. He's going to be 37, a massive problem. But Koku knows him. He coached him at international level. At Swansea, he was mightily impressive, and he's done okay at Spurs, and he'll be free. And coming from being Dutch, he'll at least have some understanding of the ideals that Koku is trying to impart.
Yeah.
That was just me thinking, do I like it? Not particularly. Could I see it? Yeah, I could see that. It is a tough one. Also, Scott Carson is still a Derby player.
Well, yeah. I mean, there was rumours, weren't there, regarding him potentially going back to Man City to see his contract out, weren't there?
Yeah, I think my understanding is both parties are pretty happy to do that as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, look, if they could get Rudd from Preston, if he doesn't re-up, then great. If they could get Martinez or the young United lad on loan, then that would be great. And Michel Vorm, I mean, I don't like it myself, but could I see it happening? Yeah, I could see it happening. Asmir Begovic is an interesting one. In January, there were some links there, and they weren't not true, but the link weren't as concrete as it was made out to sort of be. But they were.
Exclusive for you there, Rams Right podcast fans.
They were. I think I reported it in January. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, you did. There was.
So yeah, our understanding at the time was that if any deal was going to be, it was going to be a loan. And at the time, Derby already had Hamer, who wasn't playing. Or was he? Yeah, he was between the sticks at the time.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like, well, why bring in another keeper on loan when we've got this keeper on loan? It wouldn't have made any sense. So yeah, maybe they take another look at Asmir Begovic. So yeah, they're the keepers that I like, that I think you could get, and that you have been connected with.
Yeah.
I would expect a lot of goalkeeper rumours to be flying around Derby come, well, we're in summer, but come the transfer window being open.
Yeah. We've totally digressed from what we're talking about. We've gone from Forest to keepers.
It's all things Derby, mate. Who cares? We're having fun.
It doesn't matter, does it? Exactly. But yeah, anyway, going back to the Forest game though. So we're saying it probably was there was multiple personnel we could say that were at fault for the goal. But I mean, other than that, I think Derby struggled to create anything. You obviously mentioned that. I think Max Bird probably had our best chance, especially I think it was the second half. And Louis Sibley got down to the byline, pulled it back, and Bird just couldn't get out of his feet. Now,
I think Bird, because he's naturally left-footed.
Yes.
Sorry, exactly. I was going to say I think Bird, because he's naturally left-footed, tried to get it on his left when actually he should have just hit it with his right first time. But
watching that back, when he got it caught under his feet, rather than shooting, he had Sibley and Martin screaming at him on it free on his right hand side from about 8 yards out. You think you just find it, but obviously in that moment when you're a young player against your local rivals, you're 10, 12 yards from goal. Your first instinct is that I'm going to put this in the corner. But yeah. But other than that, we've just struggled. Like we said, we struggled to break them down. They probably should have won that maybe 2 or 3-0. I think Grabban missed a sitter, didn't he, from 8 yards out?
He missed 2. Grabban missed 2. Very good chances. Thiago Silva hit the post.
Hamer made another save down in the corner from Lolly.
From Lolly. I mean, honestly, mate, to say it could have been 2 would have been kind. It could have been 4 or 5.
Nathan as well.
Forest carved you open.
They did. They were the better team on the day. And you got
a point.
There'll be a lot of you listening going, what is he on about? That's it. I'm turning them off now. No, they were the better team. We've got to accept that. But cometh the hour, cometh the man. The wardrobe, Chris Martin, finally, after, is it 14 games, I think it is?
14 games. 14
games.
His
first goal against Nottingham Forest. And he probably knew nothing about it, but it doesn't matter because it was all important, off his back, neck or shoulder, something like that from about 2 yards out. And yeah, the crowd at home would have gone wild. I'm sure if there was some in the stadium, I'm sure they would have gone nuts. Ryan, what was your reaction? Were you going nuts or?
What? No. I tell you what the reaction was. It was very strange because obviously, when that happens, is it Forest are appealing it's no goal, Derby are appealing it's a goal, Forest bench is screaming no goal, the Derby bench is up in arms, and everyone in the press is just sort of going like that and panicking, like Nico is deleting hundreds of words to completely
changing his player ratings and everything.
Is to completely restructure the match report that he's done on Derby losing 1-0. He's just completely obliterated that, so he's unhappy, and I'm just kind of. And I tell you what, the tweet that I sent out, which just sort of says "goal Whittaker off," I was halfway through composing something, a tweet, and I think it had like Morgan Whittaker takes off as something like that. I think I was tweeting about the free kick and about it being the last chance.
Yeah.
But by the time I was like, well, all right, I need to now watch this because if it goes in, I need to know what's happened.
Yeah.
So by the time the goal had been given, I was trying to delete it and eventually just thought, sod it, and just ended up mashing the keyboard and send it. Because there's just this sense of urgency that you get from everyone, and everyone around you is looking, and everyone in the press box is going, who crossed it? Who knocked it in? Who was at the other end? Was it Forsyth? Who was the defender he was round? And you just sort of, your mind is just sort of spinning as. So yeah, it was a very strange reaction. It took a little while things like that take a little while to sort of be like, what actually just happened? You see that you see the ball in the back of the net and the players run off, and you just sort of sat there thinking, but what actually happened?
Yeah. It was a scramble. I mean, I remember watching it. I was with my nephew, and we saw it. But the thing was, though, if you go back to the free kick, there was no need to commit that free kick. Samba had the ball, at his feet, and Worrell just took out Whittaker from, he must have been 40 yards away. No need for it. And then obviously Rooney steps up. You're thinking, if you're going to need one good ball, give it now. He does. Samba flaps. Evans, I think it is, keeps it in play. Comes off Matty Cash, and then obviously Martin bundles it home. Now, when on first look, me and my nephew were jumping up. That's a goal. And we thought, oh, he's not giving it. And then it was like, no, it is a goal. And he gave it. So it was just mass hysteria. You're thinking, we've done it. I can't believe it.
I'll be honest. I didn't think it went over the line. Now, obviously, the ref has wristwatch technology, so we know it did. It doesn't matter what. But on first glance, I'm sat there thinking, he's not going to give that. Just the awful journalist in me was like, he's not going to give that, and then the whistle's going to blow, and I'm going to get to ask an incredibly pissed off Philip Cocu. So Philip, what about the goal that wasn't given?
Well, yeah, I mean, you tweeted out how Forest camp felt. Now, how was that? What was that tweet say? What did that tweet say?
Well, that was as they were, because basically the away teams at Pride Park, they come out through a tunnel. A separate, so they don't come out through the actual tunnel. They come out through one of like the confectionery, concourse exits. They come out through one, and it's right beside where we sit as the press, where I've been sit for the last couple of times, just off to the right. And as they went down the tunnel, we heard some shouting and screaming, and then we sort of looked round, and then we just heard someone go, "Went and fucked it," and then just a bang, which we assume was the Forest dressing room door. But that. I've got it on good authority that shouting match went on for a good while amongst the Forest ranks. They were not happy. They were not happy at how they threw that lead away at all. They were furious with themselves.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you got to interview Big Phil afterwards. I mean, what was his reaction like? I guess he was. We saw. The replays on from his celebration. We saw them on Sky, and he was.
I saw that.
It was sort of like, go, what, no, yeah! And he
looked like a kid that had just unwrapped his bike at Christmas.
You know what? He got absolutely slaughtered by some of our fans at the start of the season because he shows no emotion. And that was a side of Philip Cocu that I don't think any Derby County fan has seen this season.
The most animated I remember him being was the Birmingham game after the drink driving incident when you win.
Yes.
And at full time, he's double fist pumping and giving it the big one. But that was the most animated I've seen. Funnily enough, though, he was a bit annoyed at the press conference. He was annoyed, and he said it himself. Did I ask him? One of us asked him, you've snatched a point after going 1-0 down and you're back against the wall. Yeah. You're like, yeah, we snatched a point and that's great, but I'm annoyed. Why do we have to go 1-0 down to react? He was very happy that they got a point. He was very annoyed that they didn't play well. He was very annoyed that there was a lack of urgency. He was annoyed that again they had to go 1-0 down. And he was a little bit annoyed at Waghorn. I think he was more annoyed at the situation because it now meant that he was, they're another man light, and when they can ill afford to be. It should be noted that after the game, after everyone had gone, apart from just a couple of press members, Waghorn and Cocu were in the dugout, and it looks like Waghorn's trying to explain what's going on, and Philip just stood there and he's listening, he's nodding, and then it ends with Philip just giving him a nice pat on the back, and they go down the tunnel together, and you just think because. Waghorn will be upset, so there's no need to dig him out. He will be devastated, and so he was annoyed at the lack of bodies that he's now going to have available to him, particularly on the wings. He was annoyed that they had to go 1-0 down to react. He was annoyed that it took them so long to start playing, but he was happy with the point. And critically, he was like, "We're unbeaten in 6," and we move on.
Yeah, so, I mean, you brought up... I was going to bring that up, Waghorn, because obviously we didn't talk about that, but... So, Waghorn then, without him, was it a red card, do you think?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I think it was. I think, if we're honest, it is a bad challenge. It's not a red miss challenge.
No, because I think what actually happened is...
times it.
Yeah, he goes for the ball as well, but I think Whittaker puts a foot in and just knocks the ball away, but... Yeah, he didn't mean it. And it was quite interesting you mentioned, obviously, the dugout, because on Radio Derby afterwards, Ed Dawes was sort of mentioning that and just sort of looking at the reaction. And you both said the same thing. It just looked like it was, a civil conversation about it. And that's fair enough. But obviously, we lost Lawrence for a fight against Reading, at the end of the game against Reading.
Yeah.
But, again, I think you brought it up on your digest that day, that if someone's got their hands around your throat,
Yeah, and like, look, I can see both sides. Like, I spoke as if it was me personally, because if that was me, if someone would have done that to me, then yeah, I'd have gone in for a sum as well. Do you know what I mean? And I think the problem, and I just tried to keep it real, because I think the problem that we have is a lot of people criticise Lawrence for that, but a lot of people would have also done what Lawrence did, and that was the big issue that I had. Let's be real here. We'll have all had situations like that out and about, when you're out with your mates having a drink or whatever it is, when it gets a little heated, and sometimes the more sensible one drags you back, and sometimes you get in a bit of a scuffle. Should you do it? No, you shouldn't. Can you understand why you get into it? Yeah, you can, so long as it doesn't escalate too far. And I think I was just trying to keep it real. That was all. Like, look, should he have walked away? Of course he should have walked away. Do I understand why he didn't? I understand why he didn't. He's going to miss. He's back for the Brentford game, which is a good thing for them. Now they're going to miss Waggy for 3 games. I'm not sure what Cocu does, and I'm honest with you, out wide. I like both Knight and Holmes. The work rate is exemplary. Defensively, I think Dwayne Holmes' defensive work is overlooked. He's very, very good. In fact, so much so that they actually swapped him and put him on the left.
Yes, I noticed that. I think because Forsyth was struggling with Cash and Lolly, weren't he?
Yeah, he was, and they put Holmes on the left to deal with that threat, and they were much better at doing it once Holmes went out on that side.
I actually thought attacking wise we were a lot better as well.
I think so. I think that was a byproduct of basically on that left side, or the Forest's right side, them respecting the defensive attributes that Holmes had, and basically just meant that Cash just couldn't keep running free, which meant he kept him pinned back, and therefore it meant that Derby had a bit more space to operate in. Yeah. But they are a bit ponderous, and this isn't a critique. They're not natural wingers.
No.
That isn't the position that they are conditioned to play. They're not natural wingers. I kind of think just a little bit. I kind of think that you might see Florian Joseph soon.
I would quite. You know what? I would go with that. I was quite happy when he got brought on. I just thought, right, you've got no pressure on you. All your teammates big you up. Let's go see it. Don't matter if you make a mistake now, because you're not going to have 28,000 Derby fans yelling at you, calling you shit. They're not. Just go and do what you can do. And
by all accounts, he was excellent in the 2 behind closed doors games against Stoke before Derby. So, there's a talent in there. There's a talented player in there. But I think for natural winger purposes, I think I have a feeling that we might see him in place of Knight. Personally, in my head, I think he might stick Holmes on the left and pop Florian on the right against West Brom.
Very interesting. That brings us on to West Brom quite nicely, that does. So, obviously, West Brom then, again, looking for them automatic spots. Won the last 2 games since we come back, but they lost. No, they drew, didn't they? They drew and lost before that. Can we do it? Can we get a result without Wagon, without Lawrence? Can we go to West Brom and get something? Because we'll talk about playoffs. Obviously, we were a point away before the weekend's fixtures. Now, obviously, with the point against Forest and Cardiff winning, we are now 3. I said on Friday night on Radio Derby, I said on Friday night that I think the Cardiff game is going to be probably more important than the Forest game, because that is a massive 6-pointer. But we've got to get there first.
Certainly. Yeah, almost certainly. The thing about this West Brom team is they'll give you chances. They're going to be missing Hegazi as well. He got sent off against Hull. They're going to be missing him. That's a big, big miss. He's a big centre-half for them, figuratively and literally. He's massive. So he's going to be a miss. The thing about West Brom's midfield is they're pretty soft. They have sort of 3 creators in there, and don't really have someone who is willing to track back, I think, and stick on a marker. They've got Jake Livermore, Sawyers, and is it Krovinovic in there, and they're good, but they will allow you to play through them. And I think if there's ever a game where you need your centre of midfield to get back on track, this is the game, particularly with your issues out wide at the moment. So yeah, this will be a tough game, but West Brom will present Derby chances to score. It's if Derby can take them, and then obviously fall back on what they do in terms of locking it up in the final 20. But West Brom is second for a reason. Where Slaven Bilic is a very good manager. Yes. Look, I've said Derby needs 7 of 9 from this week, and I've said I also don't think they'll get it.
You also said you reckon we'll finish 10th as well.
I memean, when you look at 10 points wise, like they're not that far off. But also, if I could sort of double dip here, because if they lose their next 2, and I'm definitely not campaigning for that, by the way, but if they lose their next 2, they drop significantly. So I'd be right. This is a tricky week where I thought they'd slip up, and I'd be right, and I could be right on both counts. So I'll either look like an absolute smart arse, or my mentions will be horrific for the next week.
In my last podcast, I was with Richard Cusack, and I brought this up, and he said to him, 10th. We'll have him. We'll have him for that.
Well, my feelings towards Richard Cusack.
Yeah, no, because obviously I think at the time, I think it was on the Radio Derby, weren't it? I think you said 10th. I think did Ed say?
Yeah,
Nico said 9th.
Yeah, Nico said 9th. But I think the problem not the issue, but the thing we all looked at within that was this week, and I think we all sort of said the similar things of this is the acid test.
Yeah,
these are Derby are 7th. They've done incredibly well to climb up that table, but these are quality, real quality opposition that they're going up against. And this is, if they beat them, then fair enough. But if they don't, you have to look at the squad and go, this is what we have to get to next year.
Yeah.
That is the quality of opposition, the quality of team that we have to be next year. So yeah. I think they'll draw, personally, because I think West Brom are good enough to score themselves, but they will give you chances. It wouldn't surprise me if it became an entertaining 2-2.
There's Ryan's prediction there, 2-2 draw for West Brom. Wow. Well, I mean, you dumb me. I don't even know what to... because it was to be honest, I felt it was a bit of a dull 1-1 at the start of the season. We probably should have won that game, though, in fairness. Wagon missed a penalty. So, yeah, no.
I remember Lawrence had a late chance as well, where he sort of... Did he lash it wide? Did he take a touch too many? I remember he sort of twinkle toes his way into the box very late on, and should have done better with the opportunity presented to him. It was an interesting game the first time around, because they actually matched up in shape.
Yeah.
Which often leads to a boring game, and lo and behold, it led to quite a boring game.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was an interesting. I mean, if it's like that again, 2 points out of 6 doesn't look great, but when you consider the opposition, all right.
Yeah.
But then again, if you draw, the playoffs are out of your hands pretty much. If Cardiff win, it's as simple as that at that point, which heaps the pressure on. You need to win, and I don't think you will. I think you'll draw. But I wouldn't be bowled over if you did win. I just think this West Brom team is a very good team. They're second. They're a very good team.
They're there for a reason, and
exactly. Slaven Bilic is an excellent manager.
Yeah, and I think this is going to be the first time that Leeds are going to be supporting Derby this week.
Mate. The emotions, the conflicting emotions.
It's tough, isn't it? Because Brentford are the ones to watch for me. They are coming, and they are coming like a train at the moment. For me, I think they're probably second best team in the league behind Leeds. Leeds are a good side. If they had a decent striker, they would have walked this league. If Patrick Bamford needed less than 10 shots to find a goal, they would have walked.
Leeds had a decent striker, and Marcelo Bielsa didn't deem him sort of Bielsa ready in Eddie Nketiah.
Yes.
Is it Augustin, the striker that they brought in there from RB Leipzig? He's a very good striker. He's not had a look in.
He was in the 23s game, I'm sure he was.
Yeah, I think Bielsa just trusts Bamford. He trusts him to execute his pressing methods from the front. And I think he believes that even if Bamford misses 3 chances, Leeds will create 4 and he will put 1 away.
Yeah.
I personally think that's naive, but what do I know? He's one of the most respected managers in the game, so maybe shut up, Ryan. But yeah, I think if Leeds had a clinical striker, you're right, they would waltz this league. Brentford, on the other hand, do have a clinical striker. He's Ollie Watkins, and I love him.
Yes. And it leaves a sour
wonderful.
taste in most Rams fans' mouths that we missed out on him. Because he brought it up, didn't he? And he said that there was a deal on the table, but
was there not reports that Exeter he came from?
Exeter,
that they had suddenly upped the price for him and Derby weren't willing to match it. Now,
yeah.
It's a strange one, isn't it? Because on the one hand, you sort of go, well, it's in that period where Derby were just throwing money at everything.
Yes.
On the one hand, you go, well, you threw money at everything. Why not throw money at this? But on the other hand, you kind of look at the state of play now and think, well, yes, we had to stop throwing money somewhere.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And there was also no telling that Watkins would develop into this player.
He was the right player at the wrong time.
Yeah, almost. I mean,
if it's come through now, and you've got Philip Cocu there, you'd think, right, well, yeah, let's get him. We'll pay the. I think it was 5 million they decided they wanted him for, and it should have been about 2.5 or something daft like that. But yeah, and I think at that point, we didn't have a manager that was going to develop young players, if you like. So yeah, no, I think player.
He fits into that Brentford system so well as well. He'll play as a 9 or he'll play on the left as an inside forward. He models his game after Henry, and boy does it show.
Yeah,
it's not just the playing as a 9 or out wide, obviously where Henry could split between the two. It's the subtle movement, the feinting to go one way before then drifting and moving back and just creating a little pocket of space. It's the dribbling technique. It's the deft touches. It's the lethal finishing at times. I believe The Athletic reported from Dom Fifield that his release clause is 18 million. Now,
cheap.
Now, in this economy, in this environment, a Premier League team, if Brentford don't go up, a Premier League team will look at that and think, yeah, we'll have a bit of that. He's magnificent at this level. He's so good.
Oh yeah, without doubt. And and the thing is, I think that's where Brentford, this season, they could be. I like to call it Ajax, because I think the Premier League teams will be on the hunt for quite a few of their players, because they've got plenty of good players in that team. And
that's the pressure for them to go up. If they don't, they're now fighting against the tide to keep hold of those players. So the pressure is to go. Brentford have been the best team I've seen live this season that Derby have played.
Yeah,
and even that was way early in the season. But they've been the best opponents for me that Derby have played. They were utterly ruthless. And honestly, just remembering that game, it honestly could have been 7-0.
Yeah.
They were just magnificent. They cut Derby to absolute shreds on the counter attack. It was a pleasure to watch. It really was a pleasure to watch them play football because they were brilliant.
I mean, I've watched it back, and there was times where they made us look like nothing but a Sunday League team.
Yeah, they were excellent. I mean,
we would tripe, but they were.
Yeah.
Even if we were half as good as that, they still would have walked all over us because they were something else.
Yeah, and that always sticks in my mind for the game at the weekend, because I think if they turn up and they play like that, not sure, I'm not sure. It'll be a better game because this Derby team is much better.
Yes,
but you sort of think, but this Brentford team is very, very good. That would be my concern. My big concern isn't West Brom. As if I'm a Derby fan, my big concern is Brentford, because that is a very, very good team.
Yes.
And again, they'll be a team. They probably won't be as rigid as Forest, but they'll be a team that just go, have the ball. Dude, you don't worry. You have the ball, and we'll just sit behind here. And when you give it up, boy, get ready for speed. Because that's what they do. I wouldn't be surprised if Max Lowe starts in that game.
I was just about to bring this up actually, because we've seen again the switch between Fozzie and Max Lowe. And for me, obviously it was Forsyth who started against Forest. I think it should have been Max Lowe personally. So on that, what's your team then for West Brom?
I mean, at this stage, goalkeeper, I'm probably going to say Keller at this stage, to be honest.
Heads or tails, mate, basically.
Yeah, I'm probably going to say Keller at this stage for all the reasons we outlined earlier in the show. Right back, Jayden. Right-sided centre-half. George Evans, who has been very, very good.
Yes, I've been very. I was a bit because obviously he had to come in following the for the Preston game, following obviously what happened to Andre, and I was a bit, what are we doing? Because I think everyone just went, with Davis that comes in.
Yeah, I honestly I assume that as well.
But do you know what? He just went about his business, and he was very good. Very,
he
very
was.
good.
He was very good.
Again at the weekend, passing wise, he was a bit, his passing range wasn't. It was a bit off. But again, I think that we've got to give credit to the Forest defence. But and there was that one as well. He had a bit of a howler where he decided to knock it out for a corner. With not a great deal of pressure on him.
That was very strange. But yeah,
I made up for all of that because that tackle on, was it Maiton?
Yes, Maiton. That was an outstanding piece of defending. Again, another one where it should be game over, but that really was an outstanding piece of defending. But yeah, so I'm going with Evans as the right side centre half. Matt Clark basically writes his name in the team every week. Left back against West Brom, I probably am going to go Max Lowe. And I'll be honest, I haven't been too convinced by Forsyth. Now, I said in the Millwall game that he had an off day, and I gave pretty much the entire team the benefit of the doubt because, football for 3 months.
Yeah.
But I still think he's continued to struggle a little bit. He's got a really good cross, and defensively, he is better than Lowe. I don't think there's any dispute in that.
Yeah.
But he has had his struggles since the restart, and I think, if you're now down your two primary wide men, you sort of think, can my fullbacks offer a little bit more? And I think Lowe, his energy, I think he can just get up and down the park a little bit with a little bit more urgency.
Yeah.
That's not a knock against Craig. He's had 3 ACLs. I think that's just making the most out of your personnel. Rooney, Bird, speak for themselves.
Yeah.
On the right, If this happens, please don't embarrass me. But on the right, don't embarrass me, Florian, if this happens. But on the right, I'm going to go Joseph soon.
My guy. There's a virtual fist pump coming in now, mate.
I think Jason struggled a little bit against Forest. And again, this isn't to criticise Jason. He's done excellent in his first year. But I've got to be fair. And I think he struggled a little bit defensively. I thought he was late to a couple of bits. And I thought going forward, he just doesn't have the directness of a winger because he's not a winger, and that's fine. And that's fine. I'm probably going to go Florian on the right so I can pop Dwayne on the left. You sort of scratch your head and go, he doesn't play there. No, he doesn't. But you kind of have to deal with the hand you're dealt with. I can't remember who I actually said this to, but I actually wouldn't mind seeing Morgan start on the left. Look, worst comes to worst, I don't think Whittaker can operate on 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 20 minutes when 2-0 down against Hull.
He needs minutes.
What I propose to flip it the other way is if you're going to not waste, but if you're going to use a sub to bring him on for 3 minutes, give him 45. You now have 5 subs. Give him 40. If he sucks, that's harsh. But if he's not good after 45 minutes, take him off. Worked fine for Max Bird. Jason Knight has had the same treatment, I believe, this season. But I think he needs to start. I wouldn't hate Morgan starting and Chris Martin up front. That's the team I'd go with. That's
It's a tough call, isn't it? Especially when you've got Lawrence and Waghorn out. You're thinking, it's 2 key players there. Do you know what's been nice though is to see Hector Ingham on the bench and to see your boy on the bench.
Hector
Brown
been on the bench. Jordan Brown has been on the bench. It's good, and I think again, I think every fan needs to give Philip Cocu the benefit of the doubt that he kind of knows what he's doing because his track record this season has been wonderful with Bird, Knight, Whittaker. I don't agree on, but also this is probably for another episode. But there are reasons that his transition has been trickier. A lot of reasons why his transition has been trickier. And they're not personal. They're just a lot of deep tactical reasons that we can get into it another time. But Bird, Knight, Sibley, his record's exemplary. So if Hector Ingram gets on the bench and he just goes, just take it all in. Brown gets on the bench, take it all in. That's good. That's good for everybody. It makes the young lads feel like a real part of the first team. It gives the academy lads behind them a chance to look and think, they're getting on the bench. That could be me. Keeps the experienced lads in the squad on their toes because they're suddenly thinking, who's this young lion snapping at my ears? It's just good for everybody. I'm encouraged by it. And again, I would trust Philip's usage of those young players. I would kind of like to see Derby batter someone so it's done after 70 minutes and he could throw Hector Ingram on because I really want to get a look at him in the first team.
Yeah, of course.
That would be great. And if you want to do that, Derby, that would be great. You go ahead and have this game out of sight 3-4-0 after 70 minutes, and I'll take that all day and then throw the young lads on. But it is interesting how he just dips them in and out.
Yeah, and just to end then, there was your piece on Max Bird that you did, your interview with him, and he stated that at the start of the season, the players were finding it very hard to cope with his training methods. However, now they seem to have got to grips with that. We are now seeing the benefits of Philip Cocu's training methods, and I think this is where it becomes now, where we need to keep a manager in for more than a year to get some consistency. I just feel, playoffs, yes, they are doable. Will it be right to go up? Probably not. Would you refuse going up? Definitely not. But, if we stay down and next season, we keep this, we keep as many bodies as we can in, then I think that we're going to absolutely nail it next season because everybody will be used to Cocu's methods. Cocu's had a year now in the Championship. And I think, we can, if we don't get promoted this season, it doesn't matter. December, we were 5-6 points off the bottom?
Yeah, you were 6 points off the bottom, which was a concern.
Exactly. Who would have thought that in, 6 months' time, but whatever, we'd be talking about playoffs.
And again, I tweeted that with the graphic of the table out, like, if after Boxing Day's draw against Wigan, I said to every Derby fan, don't worry about it. Your playoff destiny will be in your hands with 5 games to go. You'd be like, yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Look, honestly, I think it's a free shot, if I'm honest, because of where you were.
Massively.
I honestly think, like, if you finish 10th, then you finish 7th, 8th, 9th, outside of the playoffs, whatever. Yeah, it sucks. That sucks. But as year one of projects go, with everything in context around it, you go, yeah, that's really good, actually. That's really, really, really good. The Max Bird interview was interesting when he mentioned that because he said, they really did struggle with his methods, and they really didn't. At one point, they were really like, we're not going to be able to do this because he was packing them in really tight triangles and squares. It was 1 touch, 2 touch, ball gone. If the ball even lifted the ground, Cocu was blowing his whistle, stopping the drill dead.
That was the whole team then, not just the young lads.
That was everyone. That was everybody. That was the squad. Wow. Now, I'm just going to tease here. I've got a massive tactics piece on Philip Cocu coming up next month. I'm just going to tease that, and it really is a big, in-depth, full-throttle, conceptual tactics piece. Because you call it Cocu ball, but there's actually they've had another word for it for years. It's called total football. And there are a lot of concepts that he is using from that school, and I've got a massive tactics read coming up on it next month. Not easy to try and play total football, but if he's going to try and do it, then it's going to take a while. But so you can look forward to that, you readers of The Athletic. Thank you.
Look at him plugging. Away, eh?
Listen, you want me to plug anything at work? You tell me, I'll go plug your stuff at work, my guy.
That's fine with me. That's fine. Well, in fairness, mate, a lot of Twitter users are definitely wanting to read The Athletic because obviously, as a subscriber myself, I was allowed to give 5 people a gift, and my inbox went crazy. They had gone in about 10 minutes.
Listen, man, I should thank you for that, actually, because you started it, and by the end of the day, I think we'd given away about 50 guest passes, because everyone then jumped on the bandwagon and was atting me and was saying, I've got 5. And by the end of it, we'd given away 50, which was just absolutely incredible. So yeah, I would like to thank you for that. I don't know if they pay you. They don't pay. They didn't give me any cash to send on to you. So just a thank you, man. I can give you.
You need to go and have a word, mate. Say, look, he's giving you free stuff.
Listen, my own podcast first, then we'll get on to your money.
What's wrong with this one?
If you want to be part of the Athletic, I'll try and make that happen, and we'll get Rams right around the Athletic, man.
Spot on. That's fine with me. That's fine with me. That's brilliant. Anyway, what a pleasing way to end the show. Ryan plugging his next tactical piece. So I am now gonna, Ryan's now gonna get me a job at the Athletic. So that's incredible as well. So all in all, happy days. We've got West Brom Wednesday night. We've got Brentford Saturday. It's going to be one heck of a week. So thank you, Ryan, for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure as always.
Pleasure's all mine, my guy. The pleasure's all mine. Thank you for having me.
If you guys are not following Ryan, and you should be, his Twitter handle is...
It's at rjconway92.
And if you're not following me, which I'm sure most of you are, it's at Ramswriter. You can also find me on Facebook under the Ramswriter Podcast, and I'm also on Instagram at _Ramswriter_podcast. So thank you so much for listening. Unfortunately, we obviously did plan to have Dash Elbort. For one reason, for obviously personal reasons, he's not come on, which is fine. We both wish Andre all the best.
Absolutely.
Me and Ryan have both spoke to Dash. He said he's doing good, as he can be, I suppose. So fingers crossed he'll be back on the pitch as soon as possible. But anyway, guys, thank you as always for listening. For those that take part, it's been absolutely wonderful. And I shall see you next time. And as always, come on, Derby.